Kal Kadosh, Boker Or, Masechet Bava Metzia Daf Kavchet Amud Aleph 28a1. We just said like this. The Gemara says, "Elahad etnam." We're trying to find out, according to the reasoning of the Takana Chachamim. We said that which we learned in the Mishnah above. Matzat achriksha shtarot. Imagine you found a whole bunch of shtarot, right? Or a gudah shel shtarot, or a chavila of shtarot. Hareze yachzid. You're going to give it back. Hachanami. So to hear denicha leloveh. Right, that you're going to give it back to the malveh. Right? Are you also going to say the same thing? That it's good that you want to give it back to the loveh? Why? Al pi simanim, at the end of the day, he might collect again. Elamarava, but rather Rava says, simanim is doraita, dichti vayayim echad rosh achicha oto. It's going to be for you until your brother looks for it. V'chitale al detchad, do you really think that you're going to give it back to him even before he asks for it? Ela dorshehu, but you have to be doresh oto, meaning you have to investigate whether he's a ramai or not a ramai. Right? How are you going to do that? Lav b'simanim. Obviously, you're going to do the simanim. So Shema Mina, we learn from here the what? That it's going to be Mina Torah. Okay? Now, even though we push this off above, right, here where she's saying that it's mashma, that it is going to be with simanim. Okay? That means it's going to come out that it is going to be doraita. Okay? Fine. So Amar Rava. Rava comes and now he says, yeah, he says like this. Imtim Tzolomar, if you're going to tell me now simanim is doraita, right? So he says Imtim Tzolomar Pasha. We already said simanim doraita, meaning we just said Shema Mina. When we say Shema Mina, means that from here we learn it in the Gamarnu. So pasuk. So now what does that mean? If you're going to tell me simanim is doraita, we were pasha that simanim is doraita. So he says Mishum Dikal Mimel Kedeshanian, because you could answer him just like we said above that it was done through edim and not through simanim. So if it's going to be done through edim and not simanim, it's not going to be doraita. So says the Gemara simanim v'simanim. Right? He says, when you have two different people coming and saying that they have simanim, so yaniach, just leave it until Eliyahu Navi comes. So imagine, I come, doctor, and I say, that Gemara is mine, as I give you a siman. And then Mordechai says, I give you a siman. You have two different people giving you two different simanim. What are you going to do? Leave it until Eliyahu Navi comes. Simanim ve'edim, if you have simanim and edim, you obviously give it to the person that has the edim. But edim, right, is better than simanim, even if simanim is doraita. That means even if you're going to tell me that simanim is doraita, edim is better than simanim. Simanim v'simanim ve'edechad. What happens if a person has simanim and the other guy has simanim and one witness? So edechad, one witness is like nothing, and therefore since the one witness is like nothing, you leave it until Eliyahu Navi comes. Ede ariga ve'ede nefilah. What happens if you have witnesses about the weaving of the clothing? And then the other guy brings witnesses that actually fell from him. Tinatel the nefila, obviously give it to the one that actually fell from him, the witnesses. Ta'amnina, we're going to say zabunim zabunim was maybe he sold it. Umini shachrin fell from somebody else. Midat orko, midat rochbo. What happens if a person comes and one person says midat orko, the length of the clothing, and the other person gives the width of the clothing? Give it to the one that says the width. To midat rochbo, because the width. He says, you could be mishaer according to it. Because you could say, okay, how much does a person go around him? Midat orko, you don't know the exact length, right? It means basically since it's going further down or whatever it is, because it used to go lower, so therefore you can't. Nowadays it's a little bit different how we wear the clothing, so therefore you could actually guess also the length. But once upon a time, it used to go down, and therefore they couldn't know the length unless you made it. Midat orko, midat rochbo, midat gamav, right? Which is basically together. Obviously give the one that knows together, which is a siman muvhat, meaning the length and the width. Meaning if you know the size exactly, that's much better. Midat orko, midat rochbo, and midat mishkilotav. What happens if a person gives you the length and width, and another one comes and he gives you the weight? Give it to the one that gives you the weight, because the weight is a much bigger siman muvhak than the length and the width. Okay, again, these are all just different, incredible, no? But it's giving you different simanim of what's stronger siman. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. Who omer simanei get? V'hi omer simanei get. What happens if they both give you simanim of the get? Who do you give it to? The husband or the wife? He says Yinatella, give it to her. Right? Why? He says because how does a woman know the simanim if it wasn't given to her? Meaning the fact that she knows the simanim on the get, it means that it was already given to her, and therefore you give it to her and not to him. B'mai, what simanim are we talking about? Ilema, if you're going to tell me now that we're talking about midat orko v'rochbo, the length and the width, dilma behati dinakle chazite. Maybe she went and she saw it when it was in the hands of the husband. And she guessed it. Ela, but rather nekev yesh betzadot ploni, a little hole that is by one of the letters. That's talking about the siman. So says another case then. Who omer simanei achut v'hi omer simanei achut. What happens if they both come and they both give you the siman, how the chut, like the get is like rolled up and it's got like a little thread or string, whatever it is. So they give you the simanim on that. You give it to her. Says the Gemara, why? Right? If you're going to tell me it's chivara or sumka, it's in the colors, whether it's white or red. Dilma Badim, maybe he had it in his hand and therefore she saw it. But rather than midat or ko, we're talking about the measurements. Hu omer, a third case, if he says b'chafisa, that it's in like a small sackcloth, and she says it was chafisa, you give it to him. Why? Made the yad, because she knows that anything that he has, he always puts it there. And therefore, it's not a proof. Meaning, if she's going to say that it's going to be in the safety deposit box, she knows that anything that's important is going to be there. So if it's not going to be a proof, right, that it kilu, that it already came to her, and therefore you're going to come and you're going to give it to him. Says the Mishnah, "Ve'ad matay chayav la'achriz." Until when are you obligated to come to be machriz on the aveda? Ad kadesh yedubo shchenav, until the neighbors are going to know about it. Okay, the Gemara is going to explain. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says shalosh regalim. So you have to start mentioning it for shalosh regalim. Achar regel acharon shiva yamim. And after the last regel of 7 days, kadesh yelech lebeto, in order that he should go to his house, for 3 days, shlosh yamim. V'yachzor, and 3 days to come back. V'yachriz yom echad. And that's why it's going to be 7 days. I mean, that's why it's 7 days after the regel. Because after the regel, he goes home, he's going to look, and then he's going to come back, right? And he's going to, so that's what you got 7 days afterwards. Says the Gemara Tana, we learned in a Braita, Shchene Aveda. Because we said that you're going to have to mention it until when? Until the Shchenim know about it. But what are we talking about until the Shchenim know about it? It says Shchene Aveda, until the one that lost it is going to know about it. The Shchenim of the person that lost it. My Shchene Aveda. Ile mashchinim of the Baal Aveda. If you're going to tell me it's the shchinim of the person that actually lost it, if he knows about it, just give it back to him. Ela rather shchinei makom shenimtzet bo aveda. We're talking about the shchinim that are in that place. Okay? So says the Gemara, right? Rabbi Yehuda says, shalosh regalim. Urminu, we have a contradiction. We're going to come and we're going to ask for rain on the 3rd of Masechhet. Rabbi Gamliel comes and he says on the 7th of Masechhet, 15 days after the Chag, in order that the last person in Eretz could get to Nar Pirat. So why did you only give him 3 days? It should be 15 days. Meaning, if right now we're going to come and we're going to say that it's going to be until, why are you doing it right now? You should do it until the 15th, right? You should give the guy 15 days. Yeah? So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yosef, says Rav Yosef, Lakash asks on a question. Kan b'migdash rishon v'kan b'migdash sheni. One of them is the first Beit HaMikdash, one of them is the second Beit HaMikdash. B'migdash rishon, the first Beit HaMikdash, Nefisha Yisrael Tuva, there was so many of Am Yisrael, Tichtibu, that it's written, Yudav Yisrael Rabim Kachol Asher L'Yam L'Rov, Ba'inan Kulahai, so you needed such a long time. Migdash Sheni, in the second Beit HaMikdash, there was not so many Jews anymore, because there were a lot of them were killed out. Tichtibu, Kol HaKal Ke'echad Haba Ribo, Alpaim Shlosh Mel V'Shim, so you didn't need such a long time in order to get to their houses. Meaning in the first Beit HaMikdash, there's so much traffic because they're going home, so therefore they needed 15 days. Second Beit HaMikdash, it wasn't, so therefore there's much less traffic, so therefore they could, you understand? Yeah? Yeah, because it's much more the first Beit HaMikdash. But that's what he's saying here. It's the first Beit HaMikdash. So Elmaleh Abaye comes and he says, "V'haktiv." It's written in the pasuk, "Vayeshvu hakohanim v'alviim v'mishorerim v'shoadim v'chol yisad b'areim." It's written. That means even though they were muatim, still they were still rachok. So what's going on then? So you still need 15 days, not 3 days. So answers the Gemara, "V'kivan da'achihu," and since that's what you're saying, ipcha mistaber, the opposite. Migdash Rishon, that there's so many Jews, the mitzavat alma, that there's a lot of people that go with them. Mishtach sheirata, there's always, meaning the opposite. The more people, the more caravans. It's like, for example, the more demand. So what happens? So there's going to be much more caravans, much more everything, that they're coming back and forth. Lo ba'inan kulehai, so you don't need that much of a time. The saga, it should be enough 3 days. For the Megdash Sheni, that there's not so many people, so there's not a lot of caravans, so therefore you should need more. Meaning the exact opposite of what you said before. You said before, since there's so many people, there's more traffic. The opposite, there's so many people, there's much more caravans, it's much more trains. Right? I'm telling you, just in trains, just to get there. So if there's more demand, if there's more trains, there's more flights out. So therefore, therefore you don't need 15 days. You could do it in 3 days because there's every single half an hour there's another train going out, right? But if you're going to tell me there's not a lot of people, so okay, so it's going to go out every 3 hours, every 5 hours, every 6 hours. So therefore, it's going to be much. You need much more time. Rava comes and he says, no, lo shlam migdash rishon. There's no difference between the Beit HaMikdash rishon and sheni. The rabbis didn't want to come and give you a tircha yoter midai. Meaning, listen, it's already enough, shlosha regalim, whatever. They didn't want to tell you, no, you also need 15 days afterwards. And that. No, listen, it's already enough. You did enough. Okay? Amar Ravina says, Shema Mina, we learn from here. Ki machriz glima machriz. When you're mentioning it, you're going to just mention a clothing. Right? These are, because if you're going to say aveta, you have to start looking for everything. Ela Shema Mina, you have to say glima. Shema Mina. That means you have to be a little bit specific. In what you're not just going to say, you lost something. Well, something. No, it's a glima. Now the guy's going to go home and start looking in his glimot to start seeing exactly what's going on. Okay? Fine. Says the Gemara. Rava comes and he argues and he says, Afilu tema aveta. No, even if you do say aveta, they didn't come and bother you so much. Okay? Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. Gezel regel rishon, omer regel rishon. Sheni says regel sheni. Shlishi regel stam. That means regel shlishi, you just say stam. Meaning, the first regel you say, this is the first regel that I found this. Second one you say, this is the second regel that I found it. Third one you just say, I found this. Why? To differentiate between the three. Says the Gemara, my why? Lima regel, why don't you say regel shlishi? So he says, we don't want you to come and start saying that it's going to be the second one. Okay? Meaning that he's going to make a mistake and say the second one instead of the third one, and then the guy still. So says the Gemara, but the second one also you can make a mistake. Right? 28b. So he says, Hakati regel shlishi. He says, well, you solve the third one. So Tana Rabbanan, that means since you solve the third one, the second one, even if you made a mistake, he's going to come back on the third one. But once it's on the third one and you're not going to come back again, we don't want you to make a mistake at all. So you just say, I'm here. Right? And that's it. You're not going to say which regel. You just said that it's the regel. Tana Rabbanan, we learned to the Braita, but Rishon at the beginning, at the beginning, they used to mention it for 3 regalim. And after the last one, it was 7 days, in order that 3 days he should go, 3 days to come back, 1 day to look for his things. Once Bet HaMikdash was destroyed, there should be built in days. The institute that they should come and mention it in the Bet HaMikdash. However, though, Mishirabu Anasim, once there were these strong people that come, and the Gemara is going to explain what these people are. All you do is you tell the people around you, and that's it. What does it mean, Mishirabu Anasim? They say that anything that gets lost, that goes to the king. Meaning these to come, somebody lost it, it goes automatically to the king. And therefore, because of that, we didn't want to start mentioning in the Bet HaMikdash, because if not, everything would go to the king. Okay, Rabbi Ami Ashkachudia de Dinare, he once found a kli full of golden coins. Chazi Ubarnash de Kamirtat, so he saw somebody that was all afraid. Right? That means he was afraid that they were going to start, getting him. So Elmaleh, he said, Zil Shekol Nafshach, go take it for yourself. Telav Parsai Anan, I'm not a Parsai. I'm not, meaning don't worry about it. Take it for yourself. I'm not one of these guys, so don't worry about it. Okay? Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. Even HaToen, Hayta B'Yerushalayim, there was a stone called Even HaToen in Yerushalayim. Right? Because there used to be 20 things there. Kol mi she'avda lo aveda, anybody that had an aveda, nifna l'sham used to go there. V'chol mi she'votzei aveda, nifna l'sham used to go there. It was like a lost and found. So they would all go there to lost and found. Each one used to go there, and one of them was mentioning it. One of them was giving the simanim. V'notlan used to take it. That's what we learned. Tzeuru im nimchet even hatoen. We're going to go out and see if it was going to be covered over the even hatoen. Okay, Bezat Hashem. Kal Kadosh Boker Or Masechet Bava Metzia Daf Kafchet Amud Bet 28b says the Mishnah. We are on the Mishnah, which is going to be 3 lines down when it gets wide, but not the wide, the middle wide. Okay. Amar et ha'aveda velo amar simanea. What happens if the person that's looking for the object told you what the object is, but he doesn't tell you what the simanim are? Right? So you said, I found something. I come and I say it was a watch. So I told you what I lost, but I can't give you the simanim. Lo yiten lo. You don't give it to him. Varamai, right? And if the guy was known to be a ramai, afal pi she'amar simanea, even if he gives you simanim, lo yiten lo, you don't give it to him. Shneimar b'zeh pasuk, ad derosh achicha oto, ad shetidrosh et achicha im ramai hu im lo ramai. Meaning, here you have to look into him. You have to make sure that he's genuine. You have to make sure. So if you guy that that this guy's a trickster. Every single week he's coming and he loses something, kilu, right? And every single you're gonna start saying to yourself, Iowa, you understand? Is it really his? Fine. Says the Gemara. Itmar, it was stated. Rav Yehuda says, Aveta machriz Rav Nachman Amar Glima Machriz. You remember, this is dependent upon the machloket. When you come and you're going to announce, do you announce that I found the glima, meaning I found the clothing, or do you announce I found the lost object, and then they have to come and they have to tell me what they lost, right? So obviously there was a machloket between Rav Yehuda and Rav Nachman. Rav Yehuda says Aveta Machriz Diamarta Glima, but if you're going to say it was a glima, Chashin Ramai, the Ramai is going to come. Rav Nachman says Glima Machriz, the Ramai lo Chashina, we're not going to suspect for tricksters. The Inken, if so, and Ledavar Sof, you'll never finish. Meaning, if you're going to start suspecting, you'll never finish. There's always going to be, yeah, exactly. So Tran, we learned in the Mishnah. Amaret Aveda velo amaret simani. If a person comes and he says the Aveda and he doesn't say simanim, harezelo yitelo, you don't give it to him. I understand Aveta Machriz that you're actually saying that you got lost a lost object. Meaning, the guy comes and he says, I found the lost object, and now he has to tell you. So Akamash Malan, that's the chidush. That even though he told you it was a glima, kilo amar simanim, when he doesn't tell you the simanim, you don't give it back. But if you're going to tell me it was a glima machriz, and then he says also it was a glima, right? So you have to say that if he doesn't give you simanim, you don't give it back. Like Aywa, chacham banana, right? I come and I say, somebody lost a glima. Baba Haki comes and he tells me, I lost a glima. Is there a havamin I'm going to give it to Baba Haki? He didn't give me any simanim. He told me what I told him. Obviously, you're not going to give it back to him. So Amar Rav Safra says, Leolam glima machriz. No. You always mention it was a glima. Amar iu glima ve'amar iu simanim. If the guy comes and he says it was a glima and also the simanim, umay lo, so then what does it mean then that he didn't give the simanim then? May lo amar et simanea. Ella lo amar simanim uvakim lida. You don't give a siman muvhak. And because of that, you're not going to come and you're going to give it back to him. Now, what is a regular simanim? Tseva. Tseva. What is the tseva? Tseva is the color. Okay? 2 dots. Varamai. The Ramai, even though he comes and he gives you the simanim, you don't give it back to him. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in Abraita, but Ishona at the beginning, anybody that used to come, give simanim and take it. Misherabu Aramayin wants to become, as a lot of people that they were tricksters. Go bring me a dim that you're not a Ramai, and then you take it. Meaning, first you have to send me a dim about that you're a genuine guy. Why? Because all of a sudden there used to be a lot of people. Imagine, they would always go to lost and found. I lost this, and they would start giving you simanim, and start giving you, and then they would just take it. We know that it was. So therefore they said, no. Go bring witnesses that you're a good guy, right? That you're genuine, and then you could take it. He had the avodah of Papa, just like the father of Papa. Irkas lechamara ve'ashkechuha. What happened was is that the father of Papa, he lost the chamor and they found it. Ve'ata lekamed Rabbi Baravuna, and he came in front of Rabbi Baravuna to get back the hamor. Amarle, he says, Zila tisade de la ramayat titol. He says, go bring me edim that you're not a ramai, you're not a trickster, and you could take it. Azelai tisade, when he brought witnesses, Amarlehu, he told the edim, Idatun beid ramai, who do you know that he's a ramai? Amrule, they said, in, yes. Amarlehu, he told them, Ana ramana. He says, what? Am I a ramai? Amrule, Anan, la ramayat, kamninan. Kavanatenu was, right, what? You're not a ramai? Meaning Ki'ilu, it was like a question. It wasn't like a, so Amar Bavuna, Mistabra, lo maiti'inu shchovta lenashe. People are never going to come and going to bring somebody bad against him. So therefore, when he came and he brought these edim to Bedin, for sure they weren't going to come and, meaning, and that's, by the way, that's like by anything. You understand? What does that mean? You know that, for example, says the Mishnah Kavchet Mubet, second Mishnah, towards the bottom. Okay? Kol davar she'oseh ve'ochel, any aveda which does milacha, that you could actually get money from it. Ve'ochel, but it also eats. Yeah? Which means you have to actually give it to eat. So yaseh ve'ochal. So therefore it does milacha, right? And it eats. Yeah? So that's what it's going to do. The davar she'eno oseh milacha ve'ochel, but if it doesn't do milacha and it eats, right? You sell it. Shneimar v'ashivoto lo, re'eh hech teshivenu lo. Look how to give it back to him. Which means like this, for example, right? Let's say a person comes, he lost an ox. So an ox does work, but I have to give it to eat. So as long as it's by me, and you don't come to collect it, I have to give it to eat. Now, it's not fair to tell me, listen, you have to give it to eat and nothing. So what does it do? You let it do work, so it's going to work for me, but it's going to eat. I have to give it to eat. I can't let him do work and not eat, obviously, but I can't just not let it eat. So what am I going to do? I let it work, and I give it to eat. But what happens right now if it's something which does not do milacha, but it does eat? So here it says, for example, tarnegolim, avazim, agalim, siachim, like all these different, birds or other things as well, right? Ducks, all these other things. So therefore, what you do is you just sell it, okay? But it says in the pasuk vashevotolo, which means, right, the one that finds it is obligated to give back the avedah in a way that it's going to be, that it's not going to lose any revach. Okay, so therefore, if you're going to now come and you're going to start giving it to eat, and then you're going to start until, so what? That's not called Ashivotolo. That's not Ashava. Imagine right now I find your goose or your whatever it is, your duck, and I start giving it to eat. And now, by the time you come to collect it, I'm going to tell you, okay, here's the bill, and it's half the value of the duck. So now, Ribono Shalom, you're going to tell me now, right, that I gave it back to you. You didn't give it back to me. So what do? Immediately you sell it, and then I give you back the full value of the money. So what do you do on the money in the meantime? Rabbi Tarfon says yishtamesh b'hen. You're allowed to actually use the money, right? Lefichach, and therefore if it gets lost, chayav achriyutan. You're obligated to pay back. Rabbi Akiva says lo yishtamesh b'hen. You're not allowed to use it. Lefichach, and therefore if it gets lost, en chayav achriyutan. Which means there's a machloket, or you're allowed to use that money in between or not. If you're allowed to use it, so then you're obligated in giving it back, which means that even if it got lost, stolen, you're obligated to give it back. But if you hold that you're not allowed to use it, so therefore you're not going to be obligated to give it back. Says the Gemara, uleolam, right? Are you going to tell me that you have to actually come and take care, right, of the animal forever? Meaning, what do we say? We say that if it does work, so let it do work, and then you give it to eat. But what? Forever, it's going to be like this. Aman of Nachman Amna Shmuel. It says Nachman Shmuel ad 12 chodesh, until 12 months, and then you're allowed to sell it. Meaning, right? No, then you're allowed to sell it, and then you would have to give him back the money, which means like this: until when we're talking about the first, there were two different cases. The first case was an animal that works. So an animal that works, you're not allowed to sell it like that. You have to let it work. It works. You give it to eat, and then you're gaining from the work, and that's what you're giving to eat. Okay, fine, that makes sense. But you can't just sell it on the bat. But the Gemara says, what, you're going to be like that forever? So no, 12 months. After 12 months, you sell it, and then you have the money, and then you give it back to the guy. So Tanya Miyach, you also learned this, right? Anything which works and it eats. For example, parava chamor, whether it's going to be a cow or a donkey, you mitapel bahen at 12 chodesh, you have to take care of it for 12 months. Mikam ve'elach, and then onwards, sham de mehen, right? Umanichan. You come and you put the money, you sell it. Okay, you evaluate it, and then you're going to come and you're going to sell it, and then you put the money until you're going to give it away. I'll give it back to the guy. It's going to be 3 months. 30 days. So basically, each one of these animals had a different period of time that you're obligated to take care of the animal, and then you sell it, and then you take the money and you leave it until the owners come, right, and they're going to take it. So Amar of Nachman bar Yitzchak says of Nachman bar Yitzchak, Tarnegolet kebe'ema gasa. The Tarnegolet is like a be'ema gasa. So we already said the be'ema gasa was a parad nachamor, was going to be 12 months. So therefore the Tarnegolet is going to be the exact same thing. Tanya Miyach, we also learned it in right. Tarnegolet to be'ema gasa metabel ben. So here it says in right befurash, Tarnegolet is like a be'ema gasa, that it's going to be 12 months. Mikam ve'elach, after the 12 months, sham de mehen, you're going to come and you're going to sell it to manichan, you're going to put the money until the owners come. Agalim usachim metabel ben 30 yom. The agalim usachim, there are different types of how do you call it? The chamor and the yeah. Young donkeys. That's what it is. Okay. Right, 30 days. Mikav ve'elach, from then onwards, sham dmeinu manichan. You're going to do it. You're going to put the money and you're going to leave it for them. Avazim v'tarnegolim chol davar shenitiplu merubo mischaro metabem ben 3 yamim. So here it's actually written avazim v'tarnegolim because these are tarnegolim zecharim. Right, beforehand we're talking about tarnegolet. So the tarnegolet is going to be for 12 months, but the tarnegol, which is the male, so it doesn't give the egg, so that's going to be for 3 days. מכאן ואילך, שם דמן הוא מניחן. So says the Gemara, Kashya, Agalim Usachim, Agalim Slachim. Ve'avazim Targonim, Avazim Targonim. Why? The first Braita said, Agalim Usachim was 3 months. Here we're saying was 30 days. The second, the Avazim Targonim in the first Braita said was for 30 days. And here it's saying for 3 days. So what's going on? It's a stira between Agalim Usachim and Agalim Usachim and Avazim Targonim. And so the Gemara, Agalim Usachim, Agalim Usachim la Kashya, had deraya vehad pituma. He says that it's not a stira. The first Braita that says it's 3 months, we're talking about that there's going to be a lot of deshe, there's a lot of green area in the fields. And therefore, since they could graze in the fields, you don't have to come and start spending a lot of money on it. And therefore, you have to wait until 3 months. But the second Braita we're talking about is that there's no grain, there's no grass on the fields. And therefore, you have to come and you have to give them a lot of parnasah. Now it's very expensive. So therefore, the guy's going to lose a lot of money. So therefore, it's going to be maximum 30 days. Avazim on a question. He says one of the gdolim that they eat a lot, and therefore you don't have to. So it's only going to be 3 days. And the other one we're talking about small ones. So since they're small, they don't eat a lot. So therefore, it's going to be 30 days. So it all depends again on the circumstances. Obviously, every single one is going to be different. Says the 2 dots. Right? What happens if it's an animal that does not work and it does not eat? Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. What? No, it does not eat, but it does. It does not work. It does eat. It does not work and does eat. Right? It does work and what? It doesn't work and it does eat. Exactly. So therefore, he doesn't work, but does eat. All animals eat. Exactly. So Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. You have to actually try to give it back to him. You're not going to give the agalim, right, an egel to the agalim, right, which means we don't want you to come and start spending the money that is going to be the same value or even half the value of the animal. So therefore you sell it right away in order to give him back the full value. What do you do with the money? It was machlok between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Tarfon says you're allowed to use it, right? But if it gets lost, you're obligated on it. Ad kan lo pligi, so until here there was no machlok between Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva. Ela ken yishtamesh bahen, if you're going to use it, right? That means if you come and you use it, so then since you're allowed to use it, you become like a shomer sachar. So you're going to be chayav and gneva and vavida, right? And therefore you're going to be chayav v'achriyutam. But according to Rabbi Akiva, since you're not allowed to use it, you're like a shomer chinam. If you're a shomer chinam, so therefore you're going to be patur from gneva v'avida. Avaloni yishtamesh bahen, if you never actually used it, according to everybody, you should. If it gets lost, you're going to be patur. Okay.